Santiago Canyon College is an innovative learning community in Orange, California, with more than 260 certificate and degree programs. Santiago Canyon College is a proud sponsor of community programming and OC World.
OC World is made possible by the generous contributions of Marisla Foundation, Keith and Judy Swain Family Foundation, Wells Fargo Bank, the University of California, Irvine, Orange County Community Foundation, Farmers and Merchants Bank, and viewers like you. Thank you.
John, you grew up pretty much right where we're standing here in Buena Park. I didn't. So this episode, where we go in search of theme parks and other great attractions, you're going to have a ton of firsthand knowledge that I don't have, that the audience may not even have. So I'm super excited to kick this episode off.
Well, my sister was born 60 years ago, and my mom, they had my sister, and they were at the hospital, but Dad then takes the boys. I have two brothers, and we come to Knott's Berry Farm because you can walk right through. It's free, it's open, and I get separated. My dad went to the hospital to check out on Mom, comes back a few hours later, and there I was sitting in security waiting for him to pick me up and take me home. So yeah, we've been having fun here at Knott's Berry Farm, which is probably the first theme park in the nation. This place is so historic.
Yeah.
And it's, kind of put Buena Park on the map, which then put Orange County on the map, which then brought in Disneyland, which kind of overshadowed Knott's.
Totally.
But then it brought in all kinds of other theme parks, businessmen that wanted to open a venue and hopefully that their ticket sales would be enough to cover the costs. But all my friends would work for these parks here in Buena Park.
Well, what we're going to do is you and I are going to quickly, before we get into our little stories today, we're going to go to a couple of places in the area where you used to go to that are no longer there, that are theme park related. But where we are right now, it's not really Knott's Berry Farm proper. That's directly across the street. Behind us is something that is more mysterious called Jungle Island.
Yeah.
Tell me about Jungle Island, because you went there when it was actually called Jungle Island.
Yeah, we could pay a quarter and we could go on the island. And
when would this would have been?
I'd have been 12 years old, so late 60s, and we would get a couple of, a few of us on each side. We play ditch 'em, and have to chase each other around this island.
And it was like its own little theme park that Knott's had created to sort of be like an adjunct, but it was a whole other separate world. But they unloaded it not long after that, and it kind of sat. Today, it's kind of like a relic. It's like a forgotten land. We're here by Soak City, and they kind of rent it out, but it's kind of cool that the remnants are still back there.
Right.
There's some great online documentaries just about Jungle Island. But you were actually there as a kid.
As a kid, I was here. So, Walter Knott and Cordelia Knott.
Cordelia.
We're looking at what is now a parking lot, but was a massive lake. And my dad on a Sunday afternoon would take the boys, give Mom a break, and get us on a rowboat. And there was a small steamboat replica in the lake, and it was called the Cordelia, which was named after Mrs. Knott. But my dad used to make funny comments about it because my mother has two middle names. Her name was Rika Dina Cornelia. So it was like my mom's boat when we were, growing up. But it was Cordelia.
What's it like for you to be standing here right now by Jungle Island, by where the lake used to be? What do you begin to feel like? Because I know when you go back to a place where you grew up, memories just come flooding back. Are you having that moment right now? Are we capturing that right now?
What's really funny is that, so many of my friends worked here. My wife actually worked in the spice shop when she was in high school. So it's a very special place. My uncle Ed DeBoer was on a board with Walter Knott, so there was like a family connection here in Buena Park.
Well,
So it's just a lot of memories. In fact, I was kind of intimidated about doing this show because so many emotions were
we
coming
have
up.
we have a box of tissues off to the side that we've got, and what you and I are going to do now, we're going to go visit a few of your other spots, because again, this was a hotbed of theme parks and attractions, not just Knott's Berry Farm, as we're going to learn. You and I are going to go off and visit a few former sites right now. We're going to circle back, and we've got some other interviews and things that we're going to do separately today. How about we do that? Let's go take our walk now. We'll meet back here after that and recount what our day.
In Buena Park, I think the 14th city, incorporated in 1953. This is
it.
home. This is where I grew up.
Alligators, California Alligator Farm, right here, right across from Knott's Berry Farm. There's a claim jumper here. We're kind of in the parking lot, but it encompasses area. You came to the California Alligator Farm. What do you remember about it?
We visited once. You get to see alligators. It's like a one-animal zoo. With
Came down here in the early 50s from LA.
Yeah, 53 is when they came down. Originally from Arkansas, and then
Right.
they came to LA, and then they came here. And so it's sort of an interesting venue, you know. But how many times do you go back to an alligator farm when you've seen it once?
I wrote an article years ago about the California Alligator Farm, and supposedly in the 60s, they were hurting for money. And Walter Knott said, well, you know what? We throw a lot of chicken out every night, raw chicken. They shipped it down here, right down the block, to feed the gators, to help them get over some financial hurdles at various times. So I love the fact that both parks were kind of coordinating with each other. Walter Knott was so gracious to help keep this place alive for a while.
You know, I did not know that, Chris, and that's a great story because, yeah, trying to feed all these animals, and you know, and then you have to rely on gates again, ticket sales, and
Yeah.
you got to have help, and you got to monitor the place 24/7 because these are pretty interesting animals to.
It made it for 30 years.
Yeah.
Till the early 1980s, right where we're standing, you could have come. They would have baskets where little kids could ride on the back of an alligator. All these, they would send alligators down the sliding pond into the pool. And again, part of the rich Orange County legacy of theme parks and attractions, as we're talking about today. It was, this was it. And again, there's no sign, there's no marker, there's no nothing. I kind of wish there was.
Open since 1962, Movieland has entertained millions at its Southern California movie-themed attraction. Nearly 300 celebrity wax figures are on display, paying tribute to over 70 years of movies and television. You'll come face to face with the uncanny likeness of your favorite celebrity, as each life-size figure is handcrafted by a master sculptor. Imagine Brando, Superman, Hepburn, and Ford so lifelike you'll do a double take. The figures are then displayed on realistic sets, recreated from the original movie or television series, like Dr. Zhivago, Ben-Hur, and Star Trek. Authentic costumes and props are used whenever possible, along with special lighting, sound effects, and animation to enhance your experience. Movieland is located just 10 minutes from Disneyland, across from Ripley's Believe It or Not in Buena Park, California. Come visit Orange County's Movieland Wax Museum and reminisce those great moments in movie history.
John, unlike many locations today, there's still a little something left. Why are we standing here on Beach Boulevard right across from Medieval Times?
Well, there was this gentleman, Alan Parkinson, He was the inventor of Sleepies, and he became an overnight millionaire. Just did so well, as he was an insomniac. But he also liked movies, and he went to London with his daughter and saw Madame Tussauds Wax Museum, and he said, hey, look, there's a long line waiting to get in. Why don't I open something similar? He was in Salt Lake City, but he picked Buena Park. You know, you look at everything and say, hey, what's going on? So here we are, just, you can see Knott's Berry Farm from here. And he bought this property, and he built the Movieland Wax Museum with 500 wax figures.
It was the largest wax museum in the United States, I believe. It opened in the early 60s, like 62-ish. Mary Pickford was here, the opening day. This was a big deal.
And I can still remember he had the tallest sign in all of Orange County, and he always had a gold Rolls Royce out front, which he would drive movie stars, because when they would dedicate a new scene, or because it was, you know, you walk through, they were three-dimensional.
I brought my kids here, and it's funny because this is one of the places we did get to go to. It was open until about 2005, I believe, so it was here for a while.
Yeah. But again, then ticket sales, you know, it's just, you know,
how often
can
to him after this whole investment? What happens to him?
Well, he also opened Japanese Deer Park, but he then sold them both to Six Flags for $10 million. He bought a 40,000-acre ranch out of Scottsdale, Arizona, and then proceeded to lose his money in the stock market, and ended up in bankruptcy at the end of his life, and passed away in Rhode Island, of all places.
Amazing. Well, again, the fact that there's still part of a structure here, you can still even see the sign on the side of the building, which is really, I don't know what's going to happen to the property, but the fact that there's something here, it matters. You know what I mean? I don't know how long it's going to be here, but there is a remnant, something we can line old photos up to and things like that. But you have fond memories of it. You came here a lot earlier than I did, obviously. And it's just another piece of the Orange County theme park puzzle, as we're talking about today. It isn't just the building that exists. When they shut down, they auctioned off many of the figures. Are you actually going to visit one of those figures today?
Well, it's amazing. If you go on the internet, you can actually see the catalog, and you can see how much they paid for each of the wax figures, because they were sculpted. They were works of art. They were made by professionals. So yeah, we're going to go see Batman, and we're going to see the person who acquired Batman and check out his superhero hobby. So Howard, it's nice to be in your home. It's amazing to be able to find one of the wax figures that was at the Movieland Wax Museum in Buena Park. And so I'd love to hear your story on, you know, how did you want to buy it? How many bidders were there? What was it like that day?
It was a really interesting day. It was a going out of business sale, and I hadn't actually been to the Wax Museum, so I went to the auction, started at 10, and great deals all day long. I got a front row seat, and one of my friends from tennis was sitting next to me. So I was part of a tennis group, and he wasn't in my little subgroup, but I knew him by sight, didn't know his name. So I'm a little dramatic, you know, something that I think should go for $10,000 or $20,000 goes for $1,000, and I'm freaking out, you know, and he starts freaking out. It's like, this is really interesting because he's so normally reserved. Why is this guy freaking out? So I finally asked him, I said, you know, I'm just kind of in the moment having fun here. Why are you reacting? He says, I own the place. So stuff was going out the door at pennies on the dollar. I was killing him. So I was sitting next to the owner the whole time. Anyway, so 10 o'clock till 4 o'clock, sitting there riveted, and finally got up, went to get a soft drink, came back, and the Batman was up. And it was at 1,800, and it says 1,800 going once, 1,800 going twice, and I couldn't believe it. Superman went for 10 grand, and this was way cooler. So it's the only time I raised my hand the whole day. I raised my hand, and then in the back, $2,000. I said, I'm not raising my hand again. So I sat down, going once, going twice. It ruined my life. So I got the Batman,
So
and
you got Michael Keaton.
I
and-
had no collection. This was the only thing like this. And then it down the rabbit hole.
And then it started a whole hobby with you.
When you've got the Batman, you got to have the Batman belts and the Batman t-shirts, and then you find out there's 8x10s and movie posters, and then you can get autographs. And then it's not just Batman, it's DC and Marvel and Disney, and it goes on and on and on. So it's taken over my life.
Isn't that a story? And you have an amazing collection. You really have to come here to see it. It's just amazing. You must have one of every, statuette that's ever been made.
We got a good start.
Yeah. Wow. Would we call that compulsive behavior?
I just think I do things better than most people.
So
We're going to start something new.
how many were auctioned off that day?
Oh,
Was it all 500?
they were quick. It went all day. It went till 5, 6 o'clock.
Wow.
They emptied the place. I have no idea what the number was, but I mean, I believe they emptied the place.
Isn't that something?
It was remarkable.
Batman has been in so many different shapes, forms, personalities from, Adam West on up. So it's been real interesting.
As a transition.
So he's very demanding boss.
I just do what I'm told.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Someone wanted to know if this was authentic. How would one do that?
They provided a certificate of authenticity, and then when I buy something, I write it up and sign a statement under penalty of perjury. This was the origin of it, and put my identifying information, and I also get a shot of it.
Okay,
So these are
great.
more detailed than what you traditionally get, but that's the Wax Museum COA.
And did it come with the case?
No, it came with a iron grating.
Right.
It was like a door.
Okay.
And it was part of the exhibit. So those two pieces came, and then I made this to display the piece.
Right,
And
which matches the.
The door, as you can see, fits right there, but I took it down so you could see the figure better.
Okay, great.
So I started collecting not just t-shirts and posters, but also Bob Kane art. Bob Kane was the creator of Batman, and he hired people to do the comics. So he would get a contract with DC for 6 comics, and then he would sub that out. He liked to do big art. He didn't like to do comic book stuff. That was too rudimentary. So these are some of Bob's major pieces. This is the first sketch of Batman. It's called the Da Vinci Batman. All of these are hand signed by Bob. And then the other things are from movies and TV shows. Stuff in here is autographed. Some of it, a lot of it's I got in person. A lot of it's from reliable third-party vendors.
Howard, thank you
Sure.
for the brief tour. I mean, I'm overwhelmed. Someone has to visit your home, but thank you for wearing the Bruce Wayne jacket, and thanks for letting us go into your underground tunnel and enjoy being Batman for an afternoon. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thanks so much.
John, we have some props today, which we'll get to, but continuing this theme of going back through your past, talk about why we were standing in front of Leach International Corporation.
This used to be MovieWorld Cars, Stars, Planes of Fame. I was 15 and a half, and my 13-year-old brother says, hey, there's this new place on Knott, and you ought to go over here. And so I meet with Skip Barrett, who ran the gift shop, the hobby shop, and
This is the same building.
same building, and he hired me. And so I worked right in these offices, what are now offices, but it was a hobby shop. And then this was a ticket booth for the Planes of Fame, and that was the ticket booth for the Cars of Stars.
And what was here? If you came in back then, what
You
would
drove
people
in,
see?
You would see the Hannibal 8 parked in front. Now the Hannibal 8 was one of the cars in the movie The Great Race with Tony Curtis, Natalie Wood, Peter Falk, Jack Lemmon. It was a dud at the ticket booth. I mean, it just didn't do well. But it was a cornball slapstick kind of movie, and that Hannibal 8 had a Corvair engine, and every day they would park it here. There was not grass, it was just concrete. And then at 10 o'clock when we shut down, and I worked till 10, they would once in a while give me the keys, and I would drive it out and park it, in the back.
How long did you work here?
About a year. We're here with Dennis Maitosinka, who used to work for MovieWorld Cars and Stars. And we just want to kind of get a little history of the Bruckers. James and Ida Brucker were ranchers, walnut farmers in the Oxnard area. Their son Jimmy said, why don't we buy some of these older cars and then lease them to the movie studios? And all of a sudden, their orchards were full of 500, 600 cars.
Yeah, that in a warehouse there in Santa Paula, yeah.
And then they decided we better have a venue. Was it a business venture where they thought they would make money?
Yeah, and they enjoyed the cars. They started a museum in Wagon Wheel along the coast, going up to Santa Barbara. They had that for a while, and then they decided they would open a museum in Orange County, which they went to Buena Park and started developing MovieWorld Cars of the Stars. And they did rent vehicles to the various movie studios, movie shoots, advertising, various things like that. And Jimmy was very active in buying very top-of-the-line prestigious cars for the museum. And a lot of the cars that he bought, for example, in 1976, he offered me a Maybach Zeppelin, which is the green one that they had, for $45,000. It just sold for $4.5 million.
Wow.
The Countess de Frasso car, he bought that for like $125,000. That's worth about $8 million now. And a Mercedes that he bought an SSK for $5,200. I sold it for him for $125,000. And since it's been restored, and over the years and stuff, it's been valued at well over $10 million. He really bought a lot of the premier vehicles and works of art, and a lot of historic items. He was into that.
So they picked Buena Park because it was probably the epicenter of tourist attractions. People are going to come to Orange County anyway. Why not see if they could spend a day or a half a day at Movie World? But eventually, ticket sales just weren't making the grade?
Well, yeah, it was an indoor attraction in Orange County, which the only time that they would really get a good number of people to come in to pay was if it was raining. But, otherwise people would be going to Knott's Berry Farm, Disneyland, and those attractions, and or to the ocean, Newport Beach and stuff. I mean, it did fare, and to bolster income in that, the other half of the property where Plains of Fame used to be would rent that out for various swap meets and motorcycle swap meets and some events. And then Jimmy and I decided that we'd go into the auction business of dealing in collectible vehicles. So we used that 50,000 square foot area and out front to do collector car auctions a couple, 3 or 4 times a year.
Well, thank you, Dennis,
Okay.
for giving us your time, your shop, and appreciate your history with MovieWorld Cars and Stars as we explore and enjoy the forgotten attractions of Buena Park. Thank you, and Orange County, but
Yeah.
thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Appreciate talking with you.
You bet.
Thank you for joining us here on OC History Hunters. You have a really interesting story about your life as it relates to Lion Country Safari. I have an old program here from the early 70s, and I never went there. I wasn't in Orange County yet. But when we talk about theme parks and attractions that are no longer here, Lion Country always seems to rise pretty close to the top in terms of memories and experiences. Tell us about your experience and why it's so special to you.
Well, it was a lot of fun because at the time that my dad was working there as marketing director, it was from about 1972 to 1974. And it was a lot of fun because we got to see a lot of the behind the scenes stuff.
I would guess you had full VIP, like everything all the time.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, we really kind of did. I mean, with our parents there, of course, but I can remember one time going into some business offices and there was a baby giraffe in one of the offices. Yeah, just, with all the hay and everything, and we got to go in there and pet it. I mean, who gets to do that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, it's amazing when you look at the photos and the home movies, just the fact that cars could slowly traverse the area and you see rhinos and zebras and chimpanzees and lions, of course, and tigers. It's amazing that existed the way it did. Like today when they do it, it's a lot more controlled. It just looked like everything was fair game. Is that how you remember, like, would you drive through as well the way regular people
Exactly. Yeah, everybody would just drive their cars through the park, which at that time looked kind of like a desert oasis.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It looked like Africa. So it was kind of like a little safari. And the employees wore those kinds of uniforms and everything. It was a lot of fun.
Back where we started as usual. I don't know about you, I had a great day running around visiting some Disney-related historical sites with my buddy Sean. You had a good day too, didn't you?
I went to some old haunts after growing up in Buena Park and having friends that have worked at Movieland Wax Museum, and my wife actually even worked in the spice shop at Knott's Berry Farm, and I worked at MovieWorld Cars and Stars.
Amazing.
There's so much fun stuff, and the Deer Park was just down the street. So Buena Park offered a lot of fun venues, became basically a tourist attraction, like the epicenter, like a magnet. And these are stories that, resonate decades later, even though they're gone.
Absolutely.
These places are gone.
I got to Orange County about 25 years ago, so nothing like your legacy here, and I'm really happy that you were able to share some family history. It's nothing like going back to like the scene of the crime with somebody who was there to walk through firsthand. So John, thank you. This has been one of my favorite episodes thus far, and again, being back here right by Jungle Island, this is living history right behind us.